today's broadcast.
All right, so we promised to get into communication, but so this morning we're going to go through some aspects of communication. We'll do a little, opening up for statements and questions at the end, and then we'll have a conversation at 10:30. We'll have a conversation at 10:30. They're still working out some technical kinks. All right, so when we talk about communication, communication has kind of been the tough thing in any relationship. It could be mom and dad, sister and brother, husband and wife, girlfriend and boyfriend, teammates, co-workers. Like, if you think about it, communication has been communication is tough. I'll give you a great example. Something I'm gonna share with you guys later, but I sent a text message earlier this week. And so the person said, well, I got your emphasis. And I was like, huh? They said, well, you put all those exclamation points. Now, I didn't know that there was text etiquette. Well, I knew it was text etiquette, but the only one I know is if it's all caps, they say you yelling. I wouldn't have known that because I use caps all the time. I used to be sending people emails with all caps because leave it in caps. I just like caps. I like big stuff. But I didn't know. Somebody was like, why is he yelling at me? Well, see, once again, it's understanding, right? So when I sent the email, I was really letting the person off the hook. They said they forgot to do something, or the timing was off for them to do something. I said, oh, don't worry about it. I said, it'll work out. Whoever be there, be there. But I ended it with an exclamation point, so the person thought I was like, hint, hint, you need to be there. But I wasn't even thinking that. I thought I was letting them off the hook, and I do exclamation points for everything.
Me too.
Now that I heard that, I'm probably going to try to shut down on exclamation points, but I've always used exclamation points because so you're just learning. But to the person's credit, because of my, I'm calling it former habit of sarcasm, they took it as I was being sarcastic. But I wasn't even, I really was trying to let them off. I opened up with, no worries, don't worry about it, it's good. And so it just shows you there could be a lot of misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
A tremendous amount of misunderstanding. I mean, as I grew up in school, all through school, different people would misunderstand each other. So they mad. Then when you finally talk, they're like, oh, well, I thought you didn't like me. Like, huh? So I'm telling the person I thought they didn't like me, and they was like, nah, I thought you didn't like me, But all you needed to do was talk it through, ask some questions. So with that in mind, realize men and women, as we've talked about before in Relationship Bootcamp, you have two different genders, and God designed them differently. He designed processors differently at a core. Now, we've seen some men that has, I'm gonna say this respectfully, but female traits, and you've seen some women that almost flow like guys. But we're saying as a core, even if you could find the toughest, we could say, tomboyish woman, she still has God's core traits in her. You could find a guy that's been nurtured and maybe a little more emotional, but he still has at his core God's men traits. So when you're talking women, the God has designed women, he's equipped them with more emotion. To pick up things, be aware of things, be sensitive to things. And so for a man in communication, we have to understand that affection calms emotions. Affection calms emotions. Logic adds fuel to the fire. Now, I just said that and it came across so simple, but it is not easy. Because as a man, I'm going to lean to logic. So if she does something emotional, my first thought might be, that doesn't make sense. It had nothing to do with it making sense. It's just, this is what she's feeling at the time. So if I come back with logic, I'm just going to escalate I done created a fire, or a barn, a wildfire. So I have to first go in with a sensitivity or affection. So I'll calm the emotions, and then we can have a conversation, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And for women, understanding calms the frustration of a man, because when things are illogical, a man can get frustrated. But if you come in with emotions, it's gonna add fuel to the fire. You have to, like, if you find that your male is frustrated, your approach wants to be first understand. On the back end, you may share emotions, but you need to calm that frustration down, and you calm that frustration down with first understanding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to kind of reemphasize how important it is that we understand that if we don't really understand some of the nuts and bolts in communicating, especially, because a lot of times we understand ourselves. We know what we want to say, we know how we feel, and that becomes the most essential thing. And oftentimes, because it's essential, then we don't consider anything else. And so what he's saying here is big, because if as a female you're talking and trying to relate to a male, then it's almost like you got to speak their language, you know what I mean? So anyway, but I was just talking about what he was just sharing about understanding about the gender differences is so key, because you already know what you know. You already feel what you feel, but it's important to get out of yourself and start to relate what the other person, see, that's really relationship. Relationship is just simply relating. It's just relating. And so when you talk to if you have the mindset that I want what I want no matter what, at all costs, I just want to be understood. I want to be heard. If that becomes the most essential thing, you're going to miss what he's saying about the gender differences and how they function and operate. It's so crucial, because I can't be a man, but I can understand man. You can't be a woman, but you can understand women. And when we have that understanding, that's what helps and facilitates effective communication.
And so the goal here is effective communication. Mm-hmm. And effective communication is real. It's communication that produces results. So it's not even about just being right. Because sometimes we'll get in as my wife always says, we'll get in a right fight when the important thing is we're trying to understand. That's the thing. The thing is we want to be on the same page, mm-hmm. As a husband and wife, or, we're all family, we're teammates, we operate in different ministries, whether it's working with the ministers or working with sound. And the thing is, it's important that we understand. Yeah. But it's not proving somebody wrong or trying to be right. I was sharing last week how I used to my goal was just being right. So I really didn't care if you got it. I was just, it's the truth. Or the truth, that was my thing. It was the truth? It was the truth then. I would get all worked up like, it was the truth? I don't care, it's the truth. Do I just want to be right that I share the truth, or do I want it received? So I have to adjust the package for it to be received. And I was sharing that last week with my cousin. Justin was like, man, I used to be like that too. Just breaking people down for the sake of breaking people down. As opposed to really trying to, I want us on the same page, it's important, for us to do anything that we have to do, we have to be on the same page. We can't be divided. We can't be isolated. We can't be roommates. These things are not an option, because when something comes at us and attacks us, a house divided can't stand. Mm. A team divided can't stand. A family divided, it can't stand. Workers divided can't stand. A church divided can't stand. That's why the enemy soweth discord, because he knows if you create disharmony, all you got to do is just say, man, you agree with that? No, I don't agree with that. No, as opposed to, hey, that doesn't sound right to me. Let me get an understanding. No, instead of doing that, man, stupid, man, I don't agree with that. So then I need to find a bunch of loyal people that don't agree either. Before you know it, now you got people are mutiny at the job. Things are unproductive at the job. You see what I'm saying? The household is unproductive. You were believing for something and it didn't go through. You didn't get the job, all because of disagreement. It has to be harmony. Or I remember at one time when my son, he started, he's going through the, teenage years, and he got tempted with some things of the world. We was like, what's wrong with us? Like, because, we got along so great. It was like, what? It just seems like we've been tense lately. But what it was is he was bringing in all the arguing and the spirit of strife from out in the world in the house. But we ain't know, we grown and stuff. We ain't know. It's like something,
something smell funky.
Right, we wasn't pleading the blood of Jesus because he had been on P's and Q's to a certain point, but there was a shift. So all that stuff makes a difference. So it's real, effective communication is real communication producing results. It's the ability to clearly transmit and absorb thoughts, views, and convictions of another. So in other words, in any relationship, church, work, family, marriage, girlfriend, boyfriend, it's expressing your commitment transparently and vulnerable. The ability to express your commitment. Because what creates the funk in relationships? Insecurity, right? If you don't believe a person's committed, if you with a team and you don't believe this person's committed, it changes the flow of the team. One of the teams last week lost because the star player was a part of influencing trading everybody. So they came into the next game, they got blown out because all the players is like, well, you don't want us. See, so now you're not committed to us, why should we be committed to you? In a marriage, if I don't know she's committed, my whole flow is different. In a church, if we don't know y'all committed, our flow is different. And I'm gonna tell you right now, we're not coming up here preaching nothing powerful if none of y'all committed. If y'all don't care, if y'all questioning us, like that, like there's a reason why a surgeon has a Maserati. Not just because it's a sweet car. They don't need him not committed to and confident to do that surgery. They don't need him going in, well, I hope this works, I'll just cut this vein. No, they create an environment for those guys. They pay them well, so they go in with a level of confidence. Oh no, this is the vein. I'm going to tie this up, and I'm going to protect their heart. They will not die. Now that's a physical heart surgeon. Imagine men and women of God, ministers, whoever, deacons, whoever. Imagine if they don't believe, or they don't believe people believe in them. How will you communicate then? Where it's just everything's in disarray, discord, backbiting, questioning, people jockeying for position, people trying to get one up, developing pocket loyalties. That all that is
chaos,
division. We don't even do that. Like if somebody's cool with somebody, you don't see us going, oh man, they cool with Marcus. Nah, I gotta break that up because they need to be cool with me. Nah, great relationship with Marcus. You see what I'm saying? You don't create divided loyalties or get bothered because people are close with other people. You understand what I'm saying? All that division affects relationships. You had a thought?
No, that was good. As you were talking, I was thinking through how we need to be responsible when it comes to communicating. We have to be responsible because I think about if you go to Genesis and how remember when God told them don't eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, remember? And so he communicated that to Adam first.
That's right.
Okay, so now here's the thing. Adam, I'm sure, communicated that to Eve, but then she didn't take responsibility for what she heard, right? And so she ends up taking the fruit, eating it, and then offering it to Adam. So now when God comes back, he says, now who told you to eat of the good, the tree of good and evil? She says, well, the serpent told me. So she didn't take responsibility. The serpent told me to eat the fruit. Well, and then he asked Adam, well, Adam, what happened? Well, she gave me the fruit.
The woman
that you gave me. So he basically was not taking responsibility for the communication that he received.
That's good.
And so we see it all started way back when. So there's a responsibility that comes with communication. And if we take that lightly, then we will be miscommunicating, which miscommunication is just missed communication, right? It's a missed opportunity to communicate effectively. To harmonize, to get an agreement, to get the wisdom that's out there. But that comes from really effective communicating. And so I think that's so big. The Lord showed that to me, like, man, it started way back in Adam and Eve's time where they didn't listen to God. Go ahead.
You know, it's so good. What's so good, me and don't miscommunicate, brother. All right, so what's so good is we were having a conversation last night. We're going to talk about this. They'll probably be during the week because we have, children on Sunday. So it'll be on the week when we get into some things about intimacy and things of that nature. But my wife was just going through a study on when you get caught up in the lust. Like, and how it steals the dopamine. Dopamine is the cuddle hormone. We're going to get into this. We talked about it before when we talked about, are you infatuated or in love or really love the person? But it steals your dopamine. It steals the cuddle hormone. But also, that dopamine is your want to. Like when you're motivated to do stuff. So when you get into lust, it steals your want to. Guess what else it steals? Your clarity.
Ability to see.
Your ability to process. Mm-hmm. Like you can't even process the same. If you study it out, but all that's because any type of lust or fornication and stuff outside of a covenant, it steals from you. Just like covenant intimacy, I'll just leave it at that for right now, not to get all deep. It actually, like you're more alert, you see more, you're more empowered, you have more want to. Actually, people that get caught up in the lust are a serious proponent for depression and suicide. Mm-hmm. Because once you steal that core want to, you start to isolate. The research that my wife has says you don't even look people in their eyes. You can't even look people in their eyes. Mm-hmm. But that's because you're stealing a core to yourself. How does that tie into what she said? If I have a responsibility for communication, it starts in my private time. What I'm doing in my private time is going to enhance my ability to absorb, or it's going to steal my ability to absorb. It's going to enhance my ability to process. Because one of the things in your research, it said that it's harder to study.
Focus.
If you get into lust, it's harder to study. You can't even focus. So think about it. You can come into church, the pastor can be teaching. See, that's too deep. Is it too deep, or have you been in lust? Have you lost the ability to focus where your shutdown is quicker? Because sometimes we have shutdown. Man, ain't nobody gonna remember all that stuff, right? Is that the case, or have you been feeding the flesh, and now your processor? Because we've been designed to absorb. But not if we sell out our awareness, our want to, and our ability to absorb to lust, right? So it goes back to what you say. It's a responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's a responsibility on the back end. Am I listening? Am I assertive? Am I taking notes? Right? There's a responsibility on the front end to make sure when I show up to hear from God, I can hear. It says, "He that has ears, let him hear." Right? I can hear. So that what she just said about the responsibility is big. So you ever thought about
Yeah,
that
I
for
do.
the patient?
Yeah, I do. So with that in mind, I was thinking about how it's important that we really have a thirst to see. And I'm not talking about just with the physical sight. I'm talking about the physical sight, yes, but I'm also talking about insight. Insight, is basically where you're able to recognize how one thing causes another. You have spiritual insight. Psalms 119:19 talks about that. It talks about open my eyes that I may see wondrous things of the Lord. So you want to really see beyond what you see from the physical sight. Then there is basically foresight, and foresight is being able to see ahead. To really see ahead. And we need that, don't we? I mean, don't you want to see ahead? You don't want to go to no fortune teller. You want to be able to have foresight. And then obviously there's the last one is hindsight. They say hindsight is 20/20. Being able to have the ability to look back and think about what I could have and should have done. So those four sights are so important to have to be able to navigate even in communication, really, to be honest with you, because sometimes we lock people in to different titles or like if a person is used to maybe lying, we will lock that person into lying forever. They're just a liar. Every time they open their mouth, they're looking at them as a liar, as opposed to, every day giving people an opportunity, or at least, realizing that God can change people. Right. They don't have to always remain a liar. They lied to you in a particular instance or some instances, but we can't trap them into that title, if that makes sense. But you do have to use your discernment too. So, but be open for change. Be open, in other words, be open to know that God can change that person around anytime and in the way that he does it. So, yes, they may be in this season lying, but you still want to wake up every day and hope, have a hope for them to change. But if you don't see any signs, well, then you got to keep flowing with them a certain kind of way, but you still remain open, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? You just still remain open for change.
And having that ability to see, you'll be able to recognize that change, or you'll be able to recognize the wisdom to assist the person to change. Because sometimes, especially when you're dealing with people who are lying, we'll get into this later, but we might get into it at 10:30, but sharing effective communication, sharing the effect of the impact sometimes can help that person to change. All this communication starts with patience. The key to communication is patience, because we can have a tendency to jump to conclusions because something's impact us the way we process it, and to recognize that we may have processed it wrong is hard. To recognize we could have seen it a different way is hard because it takes humility. So it takes patient communication. So let's look at James chapter 1. James chapter 1. I think Eugene brought this scripture out in our Guy Talk yesterday. But it says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." So again, this is identifying patient communication. Let's go to James chapter 3. James chapter 3. And this is a scripture we'll talk about a lot today for various aspects of communication. It says, verse 17. It says, "But wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, and full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy." So it's look, first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated. That means if our package is right, it's easy for the person to receive. And the scripture in Romans 2:7, it talks about operating in patient continuance. And so when we're operating in patient communication, what that is now this is difficult. This is difficult for a lot of people. Depending on how you grow, especially if you're non-confrontational. Patient communication is talking it through. It's independent of your feelings. But the temptation is to get impatient and to shut down. But it takes a lot of patience to hear something wrong or the person packaged it wrong and to be patient enough to go, okay, so let me tell you how that impacted me. Because sometimes we'll go by, this is how this impacted me, or you just said this, or your face looks funny. But sometimes we're telling the person's face looks funny, but we get a funny face to tell them their face looks funny. So it's like you're defeating the purpose, right? Like, because let's say the person that has, I'm a character, so I have all types of faces that I don't even recognize that my wife be telling me. Like, babe. And I was like, huh? And then, I'm a high volume talker. So I don't even be knowing this high volume. It's probably all them years dancing in them speakers at the clubs. You know what I'm saying? But, so I can't hear myself. So, that's why I got kicked off the choir, right? So my wife would be like, babe. I was like, huh, what? So I'm thinking I'm chilling. She's like, whoa, buddy. Like I think that's at a high level there. So I go, okay, well, I'm not aware of it, but I'm really trying to get to my point. So I'm like, okay, my bad. I'm trying to get to my point.
Then he takes it back up.
Right.
He'll be like, oh, okay, so now what I'm saying.
And the thing is, you talk about gender differences. I'm a lion. I'm not a kitty cat. So I'm probably gonna, that still doesn't excuse it, but if I get excited, it's gonna be a whole lot different than her excitement because she can get excited too. But the thing is, I don't know. I probably got a man of 1,000 faces, right? Now just call me the man of 1,000 faces, but I can't see none of them.
Yeah.
But let's say if the response is I can't believe you looking like that. Well, now I'm reacting to the face. But patient communication is almost making the person aware without jumping into maybe the effect of the feelings. So it's talking it through is independent of your feelings. It's the ability to suffer for them. It's the ability to suffer for them. That means your restraint retaliation is, okay, Keith is doing this all wrong. I just use Keith. Keith is his package is terrible. But I'm going to restrain my reaction to his package to bring him to a point where he can communicate effectively, right? I'm going to be patient. Hey, or there's a situation my wife said something, she had came to a conclusion, and I just shared, it's not, well, I hope it's not that deep.
It's okay.
I don't think it's that deep.
My life is not my own.
Right, so this is a long time ago. We was in Ohio, and we went to the store. I went and bought something. I think I told the story before, but I bought something. And so we got out the store. She said, "You smell that food?"
Oh.
And I was like, "Yeah, it's probably over there, logic. It's probably over there." Didn't pick up the hint. So we go get in the car. She says, "Well, I think I bought an iTunes card or something. If you didn't buy that iTunes card, we could have went to dinner." So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, it was never even a request for dinner. Like, so, but I said, huh? So my first reaction was like, are you punishing me for buying an iTunes card? Because I'm not the dude that is always thinking about myself. I walked around the car and I got in. I said, so babe, what was your intent there? I said, because it came across like you were punishing me, but what was your thought? And she said, I just want to go to dinner. I said, but do you realize you never asked? We could have did both. But it was almost like I have to present the iTunes card as my leverage for dinner, as opposed to, hey, can we just go to dinner? And, she said later, she says, I don't know why I did that. Like why I felt the need to do that. And through the conversation, we had to talk it through, but the first part of the conversation might have been, well, I didn't know what was in the account. I said, yeah, but you picked the negative. Because if you don't know, that means it could be more than enough in the account. It could not be enough in the account. But you lean to the negative. You know, only way to find out is like, hey, can we go? And if I go, no, we can't. Oh, so we can get an iTunes card, but we can't go to dinner. You know, you almost, that's going to be a conversation too, but you almost can at least have a little leverage. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I will say this, that's not quite how it all played out.
Okay.
That day we had the biggest blow up. Remember, that's the day that you walked home.
No, that wasn't the day.
Oh, well, I think we got our memories.
No, that wasn't the day. That was another day.
That was another day, okay. But we
didn't have a blow up that day.
I felt like we had a blow up that day. I feel like we did, but maybe we didn't. But I'm going to yield.
No, actually, you in the car actually said, no, I handled it wrong.
Well, I knew.
We had another. Look, it was the same parking lot.
Look,
we had another blow up.
Look, I walked home. Wait a minute. I was thinking in that particular time, if I was saying, "Honey, I'm so sorry," because the blow up was, I thought you were mad. You were walking home, and I was like driving.
The blow up was
saying,
I was mad walking home, but it had nothing to do with the iTunes card.
Okay.
You covered that. It was another incident. It was the same parking lot. That's probably why you put Giant Eagle. It was a spirit at Giant Eagle. No, but that day, I got out the car and walked home.
Yeah. So and
I wasn't even near the house.
No, he wasn't even near the house. Well, that was another time though.
Yeah, it was another time.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, it was 2 times. Neither one of them near the house. You talking about the one at the wedding we went to?
No, not that one.
I was like almost in another town and got out the car and walked home.
And it was so scorching hot, y'all. And he had on a suit because he was actually in the wedding. But anyway, we'll probably bring that up maybe another time.
So somebody can ask the question about that, just so, because I know you.
Look, Trina's like, I want to hear that.
Look, Trina, I want the detail so I can blast you later. So we'll give you the detail. No, we'll give you the don't let us forget. We'll give you the detail.
But
both of them, the wedding and the other.
But he's like, no, Trina's not gonna forget. But you said something. You said, well, why didn't she just ask? Okay, babe, can we go to dinner? But around that time, I was growing to be confident. I was growing to I didn't want to ruffle the feathers. How many of y'all are out there that's like that? You would rather just flow and just tie you like that.
No, there's another one.
And I remember, but that thing had got me in trouble so many times because I remember even on our honeymoon, we had the biggest blow up because he asked me, now we're in Bahamas, and he says, so what do you want to do today? You know, and I was like, well, I don't know. Now, mind you, up to that point when he would say, what do you want to do? I would say, well, whatever you want to do. Because I was the type of person, I just would go with the flow. You know what I mean? Just whatever you want to do.
Let me add a piece.
Go ahead.
So, go with the flow. So in other words, let's say, whatever you want to do. So then that puts the responsibility on me, right? So then I go to do something, and then, man, I can't believe we did it. Yeah, what restaurant you want to go to? Wherever you want to go. We go there. Oh my God, this food is. She's better now, but she would be like almost like disgusted. Oh my God, this is disgusting. Or she, what movie you wanna watch? Whatever you pick out. Pick the movie out. I can't watch this. Like I knew what was gonna be in the movie. You know, like I was like, so this is
because there was a lot of scenes.
Right, back, sexual we don't watch
scenes.
Sex scenes.
Yeah.
So
it's like he brought me to this.
like I did it on purpose. So my philosophy was, well, I'm not gonna complain no matter what. I'll just adapt. So if you pick whatever you want, you won't have to deal with me going, oh my God, I can't. So I figured, let's say what you want. And then, I don't know. I'm like, okay, so we're going to be driving around for like 3 hours because you don't know what you want. I said, and so we went to the Bahamas. Now we early. Remember, we married 10 months after we married. So I ain't that far from New Jersey. She ain't that far from all of the relationships she was in. So, go ahead, I'll let you tell the story because, you know, you.
So he asked me, he said,
bashing me.
well, I wasn't bashing you.
I'm playing.
No, but this was a good example of just how we just wasn't effectively communicating.
At all.
Because one thing about you that I had learned was you didn't like to disappoint me. And yet I set him up to disappoint me every time. Which I wasn't thinking that. I just was trying to yield, you know, to his leading and so forth, because I've been on my own for quite some time. So when I finally got a man, I was like, okay, let's let him lead. Let him lead. Let me sit back and
let him lead so
I could criticize. But that was not my intent. That's kind of how it all unfolded. But back to the honeymoon. So he asked me, what do you want to do? Now I'm in Bahamas. I don't know what to do. And so my thought was, he would say, okay, babe, why don't we just look at the little brochure, because they had a brochure in the hotel. Why don't we just look at it and let's see what's in there? Well, that didn't happen. He says, well, can't you make up your mind? Like, I'm thinking, make up my mind to what? I don't know what's out there. And we got into the biggest, and now mind you, we were drinking around that time. I told y'all, you know, last time when we were talking, how we used to drink. So when we drunk, I was a witch. I became an instant witch. Now, he said it was instant. I thought it was the next day. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. He said basically my hormones just went haywire. And
then I was impatient.
And he was very impatient. Oh my God. So can you imagine that combination? Impatient and wild. And so when he got mad at me because I didn't know what to do. And so next thing I know, this thing just blew up and he left me in the hotel room. Now I'm thinking, you don't know, we in another country, and you left me in a hotel room.
Look at Mr. Jack over there. Yeah. What was you thinking? I wasn't.
He wasn't thinking at all. And so
I didn't go. I was like 5 doors down. But if you're in a room in a strange place, you ain't thinking if you're 5 doors down. You thinking person left you by yourself.
Yes.
Now I didn't think that back then. Back then I was like, well, I'm just 5 doors down. I was literally, I could see the hotel room door from where I was sitting. You know, I ain't go nowhere. First of all, it was my first time in Bahamas. I ain't know what to do either. So I ain't know where to go. So I just said, well, I'll go down here and sit and what you say?
Look crazy.
Yeah, look very good, because that's what I was doing, looking crazy. Yeah.
But that day, you know, I don't even know how we pulled that back together, but we made it through that day. Actually, we had a great day that day.
Of time. We've never been this way. I mean, the scripture says, "Don't let the sun go down in your wrath."
Yeah.
But we on like hours going by. Like, we love each other. We can't spend too much time like with a cavern or a void. Like, it's just something. I'll be honest, I can't handle it. So.
But that was a simple situation that just blew up unnecessarily. Like, all we had to do was, when he said, "What do you want to do?" Then, now here's the thing. See, if I had took responsibility, then I would have, instead of waiting on his leading, and he obviously didn't know what to do, then I should have just stepped in and said, well, you know what, let's look at this thing. But guess what? I was looking for him to say that. And how many times we do that? We know the answer, but we're expecting the other person to go ahead and pull the trigger. The other person's not even on that page.
That's good.
You know, and so that was a good example of how that was an unnecessary blow up just because of not really communicating effectively.
Not having patient communication.
Not having patient communication, yes.
See, the thing is, we can't buy chaos and expect peace. I'm going to repeat that. You can't buy chaos and expect peace. And when we're impatient, all we doing is purchasing chaos. So don't even look for peace if you're not going to first try to seek to understand. All right? The scripture says, do everything without murmuring and disputing. In Philippians 2:14, it says everything. without murmuring and disputing. And then in 2 Timothy 2, it tells us to strive not, right? To work not to strive. It's 10:13, so we'll
Oh,
finish
wow.
up. We'll finish up in
realize.
at the 10:30 service. But any thoughts, questions, insight? We'll start with the people online, or anybody online have a thought, question,
Oh, that went fast.
or something that challenged you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's broadcast. To view videos or make donations, feel free to access our website at www.heirscc.org. Remember, at Heirs, we believe we're just what you prayed for.